This is post-relationship reflections, ways people procrastinate in romance. So this lecture is subject to fair use, where I will comment, criticize, offer some research and scholarship, as well as teach. Procrastination types, how indecision affects task completion. There are many types of procrastinators, but only 3 are needed here. The last 2 are considered chronic procrastinators. So indecisive procrastinator, this is the person who cannot make up his or her mind about executing a task. Arousal procrastinator, this is the person who swears that he or she does better under rush to meet a last-minute deadline. They can't get started unless they enter that rush. They believe that they work better under pressure. And then avoidant procrastinator, this person will delay out of fear. They are afraid of failure, judgment, and success. They have a task aversion to completing goals. So taking the indecisive procrastinator, this is the person that I've been talking about throughout these audios. This is the person that you get into a relationship with, you are engaged, and then somewhere in the relationship he says, let's just wait and see, right? Let's wait and see. Now he has sort of halted the engaging process of your relationship. And I tell you, the reason why they do that, and it can be a man or a woman, is because the person that they are really interested in is not coming around, but somehow that person texted or called, and they're maybe trying to get back into relationship with your partner. And so your partner would then tell you, let's just wait and see, right? And what they're doing is waiting until the person comes fully around. So then they will work on the person. They will try to groom the person. They will try to appeal to the person. They will even get themselves better, go get a better job, save money, right? Try to, give them some money to pay their phone bill or, car note or anything like that, just to let that person know that they are still in relationship with their ex. Now, you don't know all these things. You think that they are working towards a relationship with you. But as soon as they say, let's just wait and see, they have already stopped the relationship. I don't care if you are in that relationship 2 years and 8 months later like I was. He said the exact same thing, and I thought it was us. I thought he was struggling, or I thought he was wanting to work things out in terms of get himself together while I was getting myself together. No, that's not what that was. He had already, his indecisiveness was his form of decisiveness. So his indecision was a decision. And so if you hear someone say that to you, immediately plan your exit. The arousal procrastinator, I have an academic example. It's the one that I said in a few slides, procrastinating on writing a paper. And I'll wait till the very night before to write the paper, and stressed out and crying and everything. And then I would print out the paper and turn it in. And so I thought I was being productive. I've always had this kind of bad understanding about quantity over quality, right? That's why I said in a previous audio that I used to take 8 classes a semester and get all B's. When a friend offered constructive criticism and said, if you take 4, you can get all A's. And then I didn't adopt his criticism until much later when it was time to graduate. And he was right. I had, taken a semester where I only enrolled in 4 classes, I think 5 really, and I got all A's. I think I got maybe like an A minus. So it took too long for me to basically adopt that constructive criticism, but I got it and I understand it, and I push it now in my classes with my students. But what I learned now being a teacher from my mistakes of being an arousal procrastinator was that whatever you write the night before is not of quality. That if you pull something together the night before and you don't have like a working draft that you wrote maybe 2 weeks prior or even a week prior, or it could be a couple of days prior, but you don't have a draft, you are writing something new the night before the deadline, right? That's not of quality. And it took me becoming a teacher to see that, to understand that, because when I'm teaching students, I'm really still teaching myself, right? And so I learned that wasn't of quality. And so that thinking is what also helped me to begin planning out my master's thesis at the time. But it's that rush you feel when you are under pressure. Now, how this relates to romantic relationships, it might be, it could be related to cheating, you under pressure about something. But usually it's something in your personal, academic, and professional lives where you tend to exercise arousal procrastination, because we tend to run to things that are dysfunctional. Cheating is dysfunctional. We will run to it, but we will be negligent in the things that we actually need to do in our academic, personal, and professional lives. Then the avoidant procrastinator is that sort of person who is the fixed mindset person, right? They are afraid of failure. But the avoidant procrastinator is one who also is averse to completing goals. They don't value the importance of goal setting, right? Or they will goal set, they will create a goal, but they don't believe, they think it's optional, to complete a goal. That's why you have to look at the goals you set, because in some cases you can have optional goals. Some things could be an option if something don't work out, but there are certain goals that actually need to be accomplished in your life. So going to college, enduring college, completing college was a goal. I needed to complete that. But when I graduated, I was interested in going to Japan to teach English. That was an option. I looked into it, I learned about it, and I realized after I assessed the situation that it was not economically feasible for me to travel. Even though the job would pay me money, you still need somewhere somewhere between $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 to go to another country. And the reason why it's more expensive in that country, even students who want to travel from overseas, international, to come to the U.S. on a visa or passport, there is a financial requirement that they have to present and prove that if they come over here, they can take care of themselves. So I didn't have to complete that goal because I realized that was not an economically feasible goal. But marriage is a goal. Marriage, staying in marriage, right? That's a goal. And many people are not completing those goals and, dipping in and dipping out of marriage, or they are married and they decide to dip into the sex market and have sex and, go out on dates like they are single people. And so, and I don't know how that sort of ties into failure. Maybe they think that cheating is a necessary thing to help them to be able to complete their marriage. It's just crazy. I know, it's crazy. But these are your three types of procrastinators. I'm quite sure you can find other types on the web, but it is always related to the initial goal you set, and you have to know if that goal is realistically feasible for you to accomplish. Task Risk aversion is a trigger for procrastination, so it is linked to temporal delay, which is defined as the closer a person gets to a reward or feeling of accomplishment, the more valuable the reward seems, and hence the less likely he is to put off performing the work needed to earn it. You can look at the opposite side of this, that it seems like people tend to also run from accomplishment. You know, when you run from accomplishment, you are basically suggesting that you don't want the responsibility that's going to come after the accomplishment. That you have like perpetual students, people who never graduate, right, from college. You have people who are perpetual in their ways in handling relationships. They never stick to one relationship because they understand that if they stay in their relationship or if they accomplish that goal, they're going to have to be responsible. And people avoid responsibility. They procrastinate in responsibility because it is more convenient not to know if, you know, something is going to work out, because then you can stick another option, you know, make it a goal, and then another option, and then another. And people like the options. They just love options. And so what people often need is that immediate gratification. They are more motivated by it than they are by the process leading to accomplishment. Immediate gratification is not really responsibility. It's just that you are soothed and comforted in a particular area instead of you actually working towards, because working towards something is painful. It makes you mad that you feel like you have to work towards something. Why can't it just be that I just get it? Right? Why do I have to work out this math problem? When I'm in the office with other instructors, I see math instructors oftentimes checking students' work. And we all know from math that you had to show your work, right? We had to work out the problem. You just could not put an answer on the answer sheet, right? You had to show the teacher that you worked out the problem. And I noticed that the teacher, the instructor, is not just checking the answer against her answer sheet. She's actually checking to see line by line if the student is working out the problem. And I do the same thing with writing, but it's always in terms of, say, looking at the thesis statement to see if it is developed throughout the paper, the use of supporting evidence, if the students are sort of formatting for citation reasons, like for MLA. I'll look at the transition of paragraphs. I'll look at stuff line by line as well. But I was so humbled still by that math teacher checking all those papers and checking each paper under each math problem line by line to see if the student is working out the math problem and marking an X in a line that looks like the student has missed an understanding of it, right? And so when you get immediate gratification, you miss that line by line process of learning. That the thing you want is still, you can accomplish it, but it's still going to take work. And that's why people tend to, get out of relationships at first sign of trouble, because they don't know how to work beyond that obstacle. The idea about immediate gratification is a general theme in romantic relationships. People often reject waiting in a relationship for sex or other aspects. For men and women, whoever will give them what they want, that person deserves more priority. However, both are procrastinating the process and development of understanding regarding the relationship and what it needs and the problems that need resolution. They are procrastinating also the emotional regulation needed. So when you see a person who is divorced, and I just do not want to talk about people who are divorced, that is already a hurtful experience. And I believe in many divorces, people really truly try to work things out, and then it just reaches a divorce. There's contribution from both sides, and I have never been married and I have never been divorced. So take what I say with a grain of salt. But in many cases that lead to divorce, each partner was wanting the immediate gratification of marriage. What that means psychologically, mentally, spiritually, financially, economically, in all categories. Academically, professionally, personally, any category you want. That they wanted the immediate gratification, and that they didn't understand that marriage is actually a process. That it does not begin and end with the marriage ceremony. That it begins with the I do, and that the I do has to be I do used in multiple areas of your life, leading to death do you part. That I do, when you say I do, you say I believe, right? Because in order for you to do something, you have to believe first. What oftentimes people don't understand, that there are also counter arguments in marriage, that there is an original I do that you say, that we too are going to get married and be married. And then there's a counter argument that one of the partners propose that basically suggests that I no longer want to say I do to us originally. That's why you have people, stepping out and cheating. You have people changing jobs. When you get married, you are taking responsibility for each other. That is emotionally, psychologically, mentally, financially, economically, academically, professionally, personally. You are taking responsibility. So that I do is also about responsibility. And so when the person says a counter argument or presents a counter argument that I'm going to quit my job, they are saying I no longer I do. Their belief system is changing. And now you are in a relationship where the I do's are changing. And now you have problems. And some people will leave the relationship when the I do's change, because I didn't marry you just for you to quit your job. And some people do marry just to quit their job. You don't know that they're doing that, but they do that, right? So now the I do's are changing. Now there's a problem set in, and people think that the solution, one partner might think that the solution would be to quit. I'm done with you. Another partner might apply the solution of let's stick it out. So if you can get beyond that immediate, gratification belief system and get beyond that and begin resolving problems, then there's a lot more hope. When you divorce, however, you stop the process. And I venture to say, unless you begin journaling and writing from pain, and I have a blog entry for that on my website, writing from pain, that you will stop the learning process as well. So you have divorced and stopped the learning process and progress of your marriage, of your different I do's. Now you are out of that relationship, that context, that environment. What we often think, though, is that we don't have any more to learn, that is it. But you still need to learn from the divorce, that the divorce is there's a word that I'm thinking about, like a monkey wrench, like an interruption. You know, you throw a monkey wrench into the marriage. And so now there is no sort of opportunity, unless you remarry that person, there's no opportunity to sort of, get back that learning process. What happens is, if you don't start journaling and going to counseling and praying or reflecting on that decision, you jump into another marriage. And then you still are in the mindset of immediate gratification. So surely this marriage is going to be the one that helps me and saves me and helps me, But then you still live in that understanding of immediate gratification, that you solved your immediate problem, whatever that immediate problem was. And that you don't understand that you have said another I do that still requires process. And what people do is they tend to procrastinate the learning process. So then that second marriage will go good for a while, and then all of a sudden you end it. And all that basically is that maybe you don't know about yourself, maybe you have emotional regulation issues, maybe you have cognitive self-regulation issues, but it's all about your lifespan and what you have sort of developed as expertise, that you don't have a record of accomplishing things at multiple levels, seasons in your life. And so your task then will be to just quit, because the only thing that you are good at for sure, for certain, is quitting something. So then it becomes important for you to assess your quitting or your belief system in quitting, because you can't leave everybody. It doesn't make any sense to be married 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times and you still haven't learned anything, and then now you want to marry for a 9th time. I don't have to put this on marriage. I can put this on just relationships. You shouldn't jump in and out of relationships within this short-term span without learning something, because in every relationship there's some sort of opportunity for learning. And I shouldn't have had to get to say 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, I think, and I'm 44 now. I shouldn't have had to get to my late 30s to begin understanding that certain relationships are about gain and gaining, and that I have been picking people who played me or gained me or used me as a rebound, or I've been picking them out of hastiness, out of some sort of immediate gratification, some sort of need for immediate gratification. It could be to have a relationship, it could have been just to have sex or whatever, and then the relationship that was short-term turned into some sort of long-term thing, right? And then it didn't work because it started out dysfunctional, because I didn't know myself. I was struggling with myself. And so I shouldn't have had to get to that, because there were opportunities much earlier in my late 20s, 30s, right? There were opportunities to learn then, but I was more concerned with the immediate gratification that, getting into a relationship gives you than the process itself. Let's look at goal orientation, how procrastination affects mastery in romance. What people often do to avoid managing emotions and completing tasks is set a different goal. They have an initial goal to create a long-term relationship, but their perspectives on problems as being unresolvable hinder their ability to complete a difficult task in the relationship, the one that requires a truthful response. So here is an example. An example of a task might involve resolving something as simple as providing an explanation of why a partner came home late. It becomes a task because the offended party makes it one by asking the questions, why didn't you call? Why are you late? Now the responding partner must answer the questions. Instead of answering the question directly, he or she shifts the discussion. So some people it's much easier for them, and they have developed this as a skill, to lie. A truthful response, a direct truthful response would be, I was with my ex. Right, this happened to me. And so my ex decided to come home late one night, and I asked him, why is he late, right? Where was he? And he did some sort of mulberry bush answer. But then I have learned over the years in other areas of my life, non-romantic, to make the question more explicit. Were you with her? Right? That's a yes or no answer. You don't need to get all creative with with that. Then I got a little bit more aggressive and pushed him into the answer, and he basically told me he was with her. So what people often do, they avoid, because they go into their minds and think, well, if I say yes, she's going to tell me to leave. If I say no, I can delay something, right? But she might find out, and then I'm going to have to tell her, yes, I was, and then I have to leave. And so they do things that are more convenient for them. But a truthful response would be to answer the question, directly in the way that you see it, or the way that you hear it. Why didn't you call? Why are you late? The truthful response would be, I was with someone else having sex. Now, you're not going to get people who do that. Nowhere in the world. Nowhere in the world they're going to do that. No one is going to be that honest, right? They only get honest like that when they are very prideful, arrogant, haughty, and they want to make sport of the idea that they are with someone else. If you remember Tyler Perry's movie Diary of a Mad Black Woman, right? And when the male character, the husband, decided to get rid of his wife, he brought his mistress to the house, and he basically gave a reason about why he didn't call, why he was late, because he was with her, and that it was time for his wife to leave, and then he dragged her out of the house, right? It only becomes that. But I think they had been married since like 18, 19 years or whatever. Why didn't he say that then? He had all of that time to say it then, right? But he didn't want to, because it was more convenient for him to get the benefits of being in a relationship with his wife. So that could have been cooking, cleaning, ironing, having someone in the bed, and that last year or so of their marriage, he said they had stopped sleeping with each other. That meant that he was cultivating the sexual relationship with his new partner. But the truthful response, that sort of avoiding, we all do it. That avoiding really turns into a lie. A partner who does not answer truthfully may have a capacity problem or may have a moral understanding problem. For the first, the partner may be refusing to tell the truth about why he or she is late. For the second, the partner knows morally that it is wrong to come home late in a romantic relationship, but decide to do so regardless of the feelings of the other partner. The capacity problem could be that people have, cultivated lying. That is so hard for them to stop lying. That means that they don't have a process of addressing why they lie. I remember while I was in the shelter, and I talk about this in the book, that we had to go and do group, a group of women talking, having conversation with on-site psychologist, right, like a counselor person. And the counselor gave us a target discussion about lying, and have you ever lied, and what do you think about lying? And I was waiting for my response. And when she finally came to me, I said, my past experiences with lying was in me framing the statement, to kind of please that person, right? It was like framing the lie, right? I knew I was lying at that time, but if I can give it to them in this type of way, it may not hurt their feelings, but it's all lying. And when my ear heard the word framing, I knew that I had a problem with lying. When I was younger, I used to stutter really badly. And so when you are a stutterer, it's hard to get those words out. Here it is, your mother or your father is yelling at you to tell them the truth. And whatever words could come out of my mouth, form out of my mouth, those are the words I could say. I said. But it was very difficult at that time when I was younger. And then lying sort of cultivated lying so that I wouldn't hurt somebody's feelings, right? I never had a capacity problem to tell the truth in other areas. It was always a relational situation where the person might have been a bully, or the person might have been too aggressive, and I was always a rejected child, bullied child. And so when you are that type of child and have those types of experiences, you tend to be passive, and you tend to want people to like you, so you say whatever you can in that moment, almost, forcing it out of your mouth, right? So I had learned that, and I thought about that, and it bothered me, and I put it in the book as well, how I began to address that and talk about it and write about it and get over it. I don't lie today. I don't do that today. But it did take a process for me to understand. For the moral understanding of the issue, some people believe that even though they have exposure to the idea that it is morally wrong to cheat, they abandon the morality issue, the morality problem, and say this is something that is necessary for me. So for the second, the partner knows morally that it is wrong to come home late in a romantic relationship, but decide to do so regardless of the feelings of the other partner. It doesn't matter what the other partner feels. This is what I feel like I need to do. This is something that for me. You'll hear people who cheat. This is something for me. I wrote a script, and I put that in the script as well, that why can't you just let me have this? Why can't you let me have this one thing? Okay, well, you're married. If you want that one thing, get out of a relationship with me and go be with the person. But people want the benefits of marriage. They want the benefits of a long-term relationship partner. They want the benefits of being able to come home to someone safely and securely in terms of emotionally, mentally, and psychologically, and then for some people, economically and financially. Partners who deceptively remain in relationships without assessing their roles and contributions, instead wanting to remain in the relationship because it is convenient, are said to adopt a different goal than their partners. There are two major types of goal orientations, and I talked about this in a previous audio as well. This topic refers to academic settings where learning and performance is assessed, but it is applicable to any environment that requires study of response patterns. So I'm putting this here because when we get to the end, and this is a 43 slide audio, when we get to the end, you're going to understand why I actually have this in the audio. So the learning goal orientation, these are people with a learning goal orientation who hold the belief that learning abilities can be developed. They pursue a mastery orientation of a subject and are willing to further develop. These are the people that Dweck refers to as having a growth mindset. They desire to learn for learning's sake. They are not the type of people who are just going to put the answer on the answer sheet. These are the types of people who want to master the subject matter. They want to understand how to work out the quadratic equation line by line. A performance goal orientation. People with a performance goal orientation are people who hold the belief that ability is fixed and it cannot be changed. These people stress short-term performance results. They reflect a fixed mindset. They desire to demonstrate knowledge and look smart. These are the people who say, I'm an A student, but they don't say that they have taken risks, anything like that. They also just like to look smart, so they won't do the studying, they won't do the preparation. They just want to look smart. You have reality TV is really performance goal orientation. Now, I read so much stuff and I read so much heady content or whatever that I'm not ashamed to say that I watch, reality TV. It's for entertainment. It's for me to relax. It's for me to laugh. But when you think about it, they have no training in acting. Hence, it is reality TV. I get it. I understand. But you may have maybe a handful of people with a master's degree in fine arts. Usually it's connected to writing and acting, right? But most of the people, they come from different backgrounds, and they are usually connected to someone who is actually, famous, right? Like love and hip hop, right? They are usually, famous rappers in their day, and then they have husbands and wives, and then they also have friends and children and things like that, right? But love and hip hop or the Real Housewives of any of those cities or any other type of reality TV, you're not going to see them going and sitting down in an actor's workshop training how to be an actor. They're not going to read books on how to be an actor. They're going to look like an actor. Keeping Up with the Kardashians, they are not actors. They get a lot of media attention and press attention and a lot of praise, for what they do on that show. But they are essentially adopting a performance goal orientation. They got cameras that are surrounding them, and there may be a target discussion, for that episode or per scene, but they are basically just talking, drinking, having conversations, laughing, or whatever. But there's no real sort of intended effort to make the show reflect like an acting skill, right? That's a performance goal. So they look like actors. They look like they demonstrate knowledge and look smart. Think about people who have cooking shows now. There are some people who actually went to culinary school, and then there are some actors now who have their own cooking show. Now, I don't begrudge anybody their opportunity. I don't begrudge the reality TV person or the celebrity who decides to have a furniture collection, a cooking show, a clothing collection, and I'm talking about the people who didn't go to school for it. I don't begrudge them their opportunity. They are really doing something with their lives. But it is important to note that they did not go to culinary school, that there are some actors now who have cooking shows on the cooking channel. They just are personalities. Now, I'm not saying they did not go through some sort of process to try to get them to present cooking on the screen. but you don't see anything in their background that basically suggests that they prepared for the role. So a lot of what you see now is more performance goal orientation, and people are receiving money, they are receiving praise for that, but you still need to pursue a mastery orientation in the thing that you want to accomplish. Like I say with students, you know, people like to protest and have these protesting activities, but I said what's going to end up happening is that you're just going to see a lot of protesting but no real planning. You're going to see the yelling, you're going to see people walking and protesting and all these different protest movements, right? But you're going to have to eventually come off that street, go into a law library or university library, take a pen and paper and begin to study the issue. There was this, I think she's a congresswoman, but her name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She has put forth the Green New Deal. And I was talking to my students about this in class, and I don't begrudge her that idea, but I also don't see anything in her background regarding preparation for that. I don't see a master's thesis, a doctoral dissertation, any sort of planning, reading, writing on that topic. All I see is that she was elected and she wants to make moves and makes changes, and she says now we need a Green New Deal. Well, the initial New Deal already cost a lot of money back then. And so anything that you're going to bring now with green and sustainable energy technology is going to cost even more. You also have to take into consideration that they are trying to cut back a lot of the social services and welfare benefits and all these other types of entitlements, because we are now in what, $20 trillion debt. And so the Green New Deal, she wants to have it put into play in about 5 years. There's no way in the world that's going to happen. You already have Trump. This is the 23rd of May 2019. I think it was either yesterday or today, where he was talking about he's not going to work with Democrats in terms of the infrastructure. Okay, and so my point is this, is that whatever you want to rule over, you need to become a student of. So even if you're going to have a performance goal orientation, the fact that she presented a Green New Deal right after she was elected does not tell me that, or it tells me that she didn't really prepare for that. None of the staff members around her have that knowledge base, right? She doesn't have that knowledge base. It's an idea, and it sounds like a good idea, but you are not going to become the ruler of that until you become a student of it. What is his name? Bernanke. I think he was either Fed chair or Treasury Secretary or one of them during the recent financial crisis. Well, and his name is spelled Bernanke, and he taught at Princeton, and he studied the Great Depression. He studied everything around the Great Depression, right? And so when he made a decision during the recent financial crisis, it was an informed decision that he was willing to become a student over that area of financial crises, so that it would be tested later, that knowledge tested later and applied in a more professional, political, governmental context. But he became a student. He pursued a mastery orientation. We talked earlier about expertise. He pursued expertise. He pursued the knowledge in order to be able to exercise informed decisions. I'm not saying that he made all of the best decisions. We can criticize that time now. We are kind of far removed from it, but that the decisions that he made were informed decisions because he had studied them. So you all have to, and we all have to, look at our learning goal orientations and our performance goal orientations and think about how they might relate to romantic relationships. You got people who just like to look like they are in a relationship, look smart, right? And then you got people who are interested in actually working through a relationship. They desire to learn for learning's sake. People often perform in romantic relationships. They perform what they think a romantic relationship should be instead of learning within that relationship. They do not invest. Performance is not investment. Resolving a difficult task opens the door to learning and development, because the more that you come across this particular problem, the more you learn and understand the problem, the more you begin to seek out and create solutions to resolve the problem. That's process. However, when a person crafts a lie instead of tell the truth, the person skips steps in the relationship development process. This does not build trust. It engenders anxiety, avoidance, and more procrastination. Then the offended partner will adopt a different goal orientation when there is suspicion that the other partner is lying. So in my case, I ended up pursuing a learning goal orientation with rebound relationships. At the end of the relationship, I was so tired. When I thought about the guy, I said, you know what? He looks like someone that I have been dealing with ever since I was younger. Why am I still in these same types of relationships? I keep picking the people who reject me, or picking the people who keep trashing me, picking the people who don't want me. Why do I keep doing that? And I said, when I kicked him out for the first time in 2014, I said, I'm going to learn about this stuff. I don't know what's wrong with me, what's going on. And that was the impetus for the Rebound Relationship books. Confessions of a Rebound Girl, because I wanted to understand. I had created one sort of long, lengthy paragraph, and then I said to myself, this looks like the beginning of a book. These individual points that I'm making here look like maybe the beginning of chapters. And so I reread that long, lengthy paragraph, and I started separating the content, adding subtitles, before I understood the title yet. And I began to type, and then it turned into a book. Bait, Hook, and Switch, Confessions of a Rebound Girl. And so I said, I got to learn about this stuff, because you know what? I'm so tired of this. I'm tired of these types of relationships. I'm not getting into anything else. I'm not going to do anything else anymore until I understand what's going on. And I said I was more interested in not looking smart anymore with romantic relationships and pursuing a learning goal orientation. And that's what you see now. You see the 3-part series, then you see this When They Marry Someone Else series. I have other audios I'm going to upload. I have the website. So now I care more about trying to learn about what's been going on with me, that I'm now making it sort of like a systematic a system that I can now impart to others, so that if you are like struggling with something, like I said in that blog entry, begin to write from pain. immediately start writing, immediately start journaling, journaling those ideas, because those ideas could eventually turn into a book. The people who perform in romantic relationships do so under the understanding that romantic relationships beyond the dating and courting phases do not need much work. They apply some of the understanding they have about completing tasks in a workplace setting, for example, to a romantic relationship. They look at the relationship as competing with their fellow colleagues. The following lists of survey items are standard for goal orientation research and assessment. They provide insight into how people think about goals, tasks, performance, and avoidance. So these are survey items I took from a journal article, and you would often see this if you were taking a survey. It would be much longer. I only took sort of 4 items from the survey, but with the learning goal orientation, and remember, learning goal orientation is you trying to become an expert, you trying to pursue a mastery orientation of a subject. With a performance goal orientation, you just want to look smart. You want to look like you know the information, but really don't know the information. So with LGO, I want to learn as much as possible. I like best when something I learned makes me want to find out more. When I fail to complete a difficult task, I plan to try harder the next time I work on it. I prefer to work on tasks that force me to learn new things. That means you are open to learning. And some people have been wounded in childhood. I remember in high school, I went to my first high school was, I'm not going to give you the name, but the high school, there was a Spanish teacher, and I tell this to all of my students, and it really bothers me even to this day, and that's why I try to make sure my teaching, what I teach students, is about work ethic and pursuing a learning goal orientation. So the Spanish teacher, old guy, old instructor, he had a desk at the front of the classroom, as all instructors do, and he told us to go get the book, the Spanish books, off the shelf in the classroom. And then he told us to turn to a certain page in a Spanish book, like a chapter or something. And then he told us to do the questions at the end of that chapter. And he said, if you need to know the answer, just look at the back of the book. And that has bothered me. I don't even know if I've truly made peace with it, but it is something that informs me in terms of how I teach my students. I do not teach my students that strategy. I make sure that I teach my students so that they almost, become teachers themselves. So we can all be wounded in our childhood, adolescence, in terms of learning, that if you look at that very last bullet point, I prefer to work on things that force me to learn new things. Well, if you come out of the public school system, not all public schools, but if you come out of the public school systems, it is all about check mark and gold star. You learn just enough to pass, but you're not really expected to learn to apply your knowledge, because the expectation for you in the public school system is to come out, get a good job, marry a good man, go to the military. I mean, college is really not something that you need to consider, right? Because you're basically working class. Now, the system is changing. We have dual credit systems, where teenagers are now taking college classes while they are in high school. And so I will say that the system is changing, but you can still have some teachers in that system, in the college system, who have a performance goal orientation, like look like they are a teacher, but not actually be a true teacher. So under performance goal orientation, PGO, I want others to think I'm smart. I am motivated by the thought of outperforming my peers. I strive to demonstrate my ability relative to others. The opinions of others about how well I do certain things are important to me. So people like the ideal of saying, I'm a teacher, they like it when people say, oh, you are a teacher. Oh, that's so noble. It's a noble profession. But I venture to say that there are some shady teachers, that there are some teachers that believe about certain people, and they can be white in a sort of working class, low class area. They can be, minority, Black, Latino, Asian, that they already have a belief system about you. And I've been noticing this, that they often they don't express it directly, but they express it in the way that they are teaching you. I don't feel like you are going to learn this, so there's no reason for me to teach you. That's what the Spanish teacher was essentially saying, that I don't feel like you're going to learn this Spanish, so there's no sense in me teaching you. He sat right up there at the desk. He did not teach. He never wrote anything on the board. In contrast, my teacher in geometry, she put everything on the board. She looked at it from line by line. The math instructor that I told you about in previous slides, she checked the students' work line by line. Anytime there was a line that was kind of off in its computation, she marked an X, right? That they are true teachers. That when you call them teacher, they are actually teachers. I'm like that. Because of my experiences, I am so concerned about how you learn, how you understand the information, and I don't want to leave you every semester not actually teaching you. So some people like to sort of just look like a teacher, but they're not really a teacher, or look like a businessman and they're not really a businessman. We're finding out now about Trump that he's not truly a businessman. And this is not to berate President Trump, but here it is. We thought all this time that the name Trump was, synonymous with business and leadership and excellence and intellectual and all the kinds of, and he's none of those things. That he is, when he says he is the king of debt, that means that he has no learning process when it comes to finances. And so now you see the different like states and Congress trying to get his finances right to see if he's compromised. And so he has a performance goal orientation. He looks like a president, but he's not a president. He looks like a businessman, but he's not a businessman. He looks like a financier, but he's not a financier. And so he's now 70-something years old, and he has rolled over in this misunderstanding about learning from the time he was young to 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and now 70s. That's too long to wait to learn. So he does not have a mastery orientation, really, of even the real estate industry, that he stopped building a long time ago, that he started licensing his name Trump. And I'm not saying that's a bad business deal, but he's not a builder. And he's saying that he is a builder is him essentially saying I look smart, but all he did was license his name, and the construction company was the company that actually built the buildings, any sort of construction project that had the name Trump. it is more important for him to look smart, or for some people it is more important for them to look like they are in a relationship, but they actually won't be in a relationship. And I'll say this last thing before I go on to the slide. Kourtney Kardashian and then Scott Disick, they have this habit of looking like they are in a relationship, but they're not in a relationship, right? If you look at some of the earlier episodes, earlier seasons of them living together in one home, that on the cameras they look like they were in a relationship, but in real life they lived and slept in separate bedrooms. And it was at Kourtney's instruction to do so. So they look like they are in a relationship, and anytime it looks like he's going to get someone else and have another relationship with someone else, she gets on the Twitter and the Facebook and the Instagram, all that kind of stuff, and she and all of her sisters began to berate Scott, and then they end up pulling him back into the fold, and then it'll go good for a while, and then after that they will look like they are a relationship. It's just monkeyness. But if you could take anything from that, from this learning goal orientation and performance goal orientation, that it is important for you to develop a mastery orientation of the thing that you want to become become a master of something, become a student of something that you want to master. I study teaching because I want to master teaching. I tell students all the time, and I tell people all the time, I'm a better teacher than I am a writer, even though I write well. But I may not necessarily be a wordsmith. However, there are some people who just write extremely well. But I don't necessarily study writing. I study teaching because that is my gift. My talent might be writing, but the teaching is actually a divine gift. So I make sure that I cultivate it and I do well by it more than even so my writing, even though I care about what I put on the paper. Romantic relationships need work, but people often embrace short-term solutions such as adopting a dating rotation, going back to an ex-partner, having multiple partners, and marrying someone else. That's key because in my previous relationship, the partner that he kept going back and forth with, she didn't want him. She would tell me that she didn't want him. He would tell me that she didn't want her, but she really did not want him. And it would have been better for him to stay and work things out with me, knowing that I actually wanted him and knowing that it would have been a more peaceful environment. No, he needed the chaos. And they are not together today. He's not even with the person that he also cheated on me with. He's with somebody completely different. And so now he's at an age where he has no other choice but to work things out, because the consequence of cheating would be kicking him out at his age. And it's not a good idea to be kicked out at that particular age. The third goal orientation in the research is avoid. It is reflected in the following statements. The things that I enjoy most are the things I do best. I prefer to do things that I can do well rather than things that I do poorly. I prefer to avoid situations in which I might perform poorly. Now that's academic, but you can look at that in terms of relationships, that some people don't want to get into marriages because they saw their parents divorced, and they feel that divorce might be part of their lifespan, right? And so they will stay with the person for like 20, 25 years, but never marry them. And I think that is just strange to me. But, people do what they want, right? They have the free will in order to pursue whatever they want. But you base your initial belief system about failing at marriage if you got married, but then you ended up with the person for 25 years. I don't know. God bless me. God bless him. I don't get it. It is the third statement that has some resonance to why people choose short-term relationships over long-term relationships. Even the person who marries someone else might still have a performance goal orientation, because once the person marries their partner, there is no need to continue learning and development. The person is married, he or she has won. So even if you believe that marriage is necessary for you, you still have to get beyond the I do's, as I noted in previous slides, that it can't be just about immediate gratification. Like I said, you got people who like to look like they're married, right? You got the ladies in the church, and they'll go up there with their husbands and everything, and they look like they're married, but that same husband on the weekends will be spending time with his mistress, or the woman, the wife, acting like she's married, but then come home and talk down to her husband, mock him, be sarcastic, maybe put her hands on him, right? So you got a lot of people with a performance goal orientation in terms of marriage. This means that even if you were not a suitable partner for the person who married someone, you are more likely to learn from the situation than the one who decided to marry someone else. You get to reflect on your capacity to address and resolve problems, which is significant for moving forward into a better relationship. Remember when I talked about replaceability in a previous audio? That it may be better for you to be replaceable, because then if you pursue replaceability instead of trying to become irreplaceable for your partner and wearing your mind and heart out, that if you pursue replaceability, you can save your mind, you can save your heart, you can save your body, you can save your finances, you can save your spirituality, and you can learn from that relationship. If you continue to pursue irreplaceability long term, you're going to be doing that forever. What if he never decides to change? What if she never decides to change? She left you when you didn't have any money, right? If you remember that movie with Common and Queen Latifah, I think it was Just Right. Okay, the Paula Patton character, she decides to leave Common, his character, when he breaks his leg and he needs help. See, she looks at him as a hero and a savior for her financially. And when it looked like he was not going to be able, or he was struggling, to get back and rehab, she left him. But then Queen Latifah comes in and she rehabs, helps him, gets him better, coaches him, encourages him, and then he's able to win the game, right? The game that he was struggling in at first, and then he was able to win. Well, not too long after that, the girl who left him came back. She came back because she wanted to be back in that excitement of winning. So she didn't really love him. She wanted the relationship to look like she's in a loving relationship, right? She even says as much. So sometimes it may be better that you are replaceable, so that there is a better person out there for you. It was a lot better for me to go on ahead and let him go, let my ex go, because had I stayed with him, I probably would have been in jail. I probably would have been in a mental hospital. I would have lost my job. He would have been truly the ruin of me, and I didn't realize I was in that much danger. Relationship building is a normative standard. It is part of the larger lifespan development that people experience from childhood to adulthood. Relationship building is ecological, multidimensional, multidirectional, social, cultural, psychological, emotional, and cognitive. It is part of the fabric of human development. Jumping in and out of romantic relationships opposes these norms. Procrastination and avoidance of norms. So short-term relationships blind us to human capacity to build and sustain hearts and life for the long term. Even a person who marries someone else might do so, but for the short term. If the person did not learn anything from the previous relationship, and he or she does not build the capacity for learning, then it is more likely that the person will not learn anything in the new relationship. They may not be lifelong learners. So it's likely a reason why people procrastinate in romance, because the longer you take to learn something, the longer you feel that you have, and all the time that and all the time in the world that you have to basically, you have all the time in the world to make a change or to have things your way, and you think that by the end of your process, you taking all the time in the world, by the end of your process, that person will still be there. And that's not always true, because if you are a lifelong learner and the other person is not a lifelong learner, that other person is going to frustrate you. No matter what you do to try to invest in the relationship, it's going to be frustrating. It's nothing worse than you having a worldview, having a conversation, and a person not having a conversation, not having a worldview. The only thing they know is the four corners of their neighborhood. They don't have anything else to talk about. And you don't necessarily have to do a lot of traveling to have a worldview. You can read, you can pick up a book and read, you can listen to the news, you can read a newspaper, you can read books, you can talk to people, engage people, whatever. But the longer you procrastinate engaging life in that kind of manner, in a sense of becoming a student of life, then it's going to be worse for you when you decide to enter and engage in a relationship, especially a romantic relationship, and especially even more a marriage, because in marriage you do have to talk. In other relationships, you didn't necessarily have to talk, or you didn't have to talk all the time. There was a girlfriend, a boyfriend. You could keep them. You could leave the relationship. But in a marriage, you are there together, which is supposed to be forever. So I think that's one of the things you should consider when you're thinking about choosing a mate: how well they procrastinate, how skillful are they at procrastinating, because you're going to see it in other areas. They may do well in the romance areas, but they don't know how to live life as an adult who pays bills, who keeps a roof over his head or her head. And so that's very, very important. All right, so hopefully you were able to gain insight from this video discussion. Please like, subscribe, and visit. So please like the video, hit the notification bell for more discussions. I am re-uploading all of my audios, so I needed to make some changes to them. You can visit my website for more content at reginayfavors.com. If you want to send me an email, you can send an email, reginayfavors@yahoo.com. Please also purchase the book. It's going to come out in spring 2021. So I had to make changes to my book to update it, and I also updated the title. So the original title was Bait, Hook, and Switch: Confessions of a Rebound Girl, and I have updated the title to Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships. So right now I'm still basically editing it, and I want to make it available in spring 2021. So thank you very much for visiting my channel, and I am Regina Y. Favors. Have a great day.